debates are free. The mutants need all the publicity they can get. And public radio, believe it or not, is super trendy right now. There's absolutely no reason we should not have gotten invitations to the We Are Arakko Public Radio, your favorite casual X-Men chat show. This is episode 49, the Hellfire Gala episode for 2023. I'm that nerdy Papa Bear, and this is the man who has put up with my bullshit for nearly a full year, my one and only co-Mega Mutant Keegan. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing great. This is the first episode we have recorded the same week the issues come out in like over a month. So like they're fresh in my mind. It's Hellfire. I'm so excited. This episode, we are talking all the comics came out the week of July 26th. So that's the 2023 Hellfire Gala. That's Invincible Iron Man number 8. That's Wolverine 35. That's Deadpool number 9. And let's be honest, these will all get way less screen time than they maybe deserve, for sure, than we usually give them. We're going around the Marvel Universe with Ultimate Invasion number 2, Storm number 3, and the excellent number 5. But first, we have a special Hellfire treat. Returning from her fan favorite Shark Girl cameo for her first full episode, please welcome Meg! Hi!
Hi!
How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Okay.
How are you guys doing?
like I said, we had you on. We had an amazing conversation about whatever Invincible or Immortal X-Men issue that was. I want to say 12. But anyways, you had a great impression. Everybody loved you, but we didn't actually get to drill down on who you are at all. So tell us, how did you discover the X-Men?
Well, I discovered them from my father. He's a pretty big. He's a Wolverine guy. So he was pretty much the 80s big collector. So when I was little, I saw the movies and stuff because that's how he introduced us. But as I got older, I want to say around 12, he let me take a look at some of those back issues he had. He gave me something with Rogue and Gambit. To this day, I have not been able to figure out which one he gave me. Don't shake your head.
They're all the same.
Don't do
They're
that.
all the same.
But he gave me a Rogue and Gambit comic, and I just thought they were so cool. He also gave me the Toy Biz figures, those old figures.
Okay.
So I had
that I can vibe with.
And I was like a big Rogue fan just on vibes for like a while, and then I started writing some Marvel with some friends because I watched the MCU. I was like, oh, maybe I should actually read some comics. And
Nice.
I jumped. My first physical comic was Hellfire Gala 2022, and I had no idea what was going on. So I started back reading, and then I did New X-Men by Grant Morrison, and then I hopped up to Krakoa, and I've been filling in the gaps ever since.
I gotta say, I love that you're that fresh of a fan. Like, this is literally your 1 year anniversary of collecting physical comics. But also, you reached out to me. We've been buddies on the Discord and said, "Hey, can I come on the Hellfire Gala issue? Can I come on?" And you're like the first person to like vehemently request a specific week. So I love that you're here. I think you're a perfect fit for it. I think even more than when you asked, you're a perfect fit because you're a giant Emma fan, and clearly Emma is taking center stage in some big ways. So thanks for being here.
Of course, I'm so excited to be here.
And thank you to your dad for setting you down this path.
Yes, he's my guy. He's said multiple times I've gotten way deeper into this than he ever has. He's just like he's like, it sounds like you're talking like an alien language to me at this point because the stories have changed so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but we should tell the audience his G.I. Joe like collection. What did you say? Has every issue up to a certain point? What was it?
I forget. Totally forget. I think we made it to the hundreds. I think.
That's impressive because some of those are hard to find. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, I plan on getting him the new number 300 or something like that. I know Ham is back.
Is it 301, 401? Yeah, it's now the longest unbroken stretch because he's been writing it since the 80s. It's just insane, and yeah, they're just continuing it from the next issue of whatever they ended on. So I don't remember.
I'm literally sitting here with his display right now that I've sent in the Discord.
That is so
they're
cool.
all staring at me right now.
Oh, hey, I've been telling you all that you need to join our Discord. So is Keegan, but now she'll tell you how fun it is. It's awesome,
so fun. Right? I'm always in there. Because it's summer and I only have a part-time job. And you should totally chat with me before my life is eaten up by school.
And I'll be honest, the most active person above both Keegan and I, always dropping the good tidbits in there. Really, it's the Meg server that we kind of also show up in sometimes. All right, I think this conversation is going to go long. So you guys good to jump into Hellfire Gala?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm breaking the show format a little in that usually I do my whole long ass summary and then we break it apart and talk. I broke it into 3 separate summaries because it's a 90 issue comic, and I just figured segmenting my brain a little would help. It might help with the flow of the audience. So we have some breakpoints in here, but written by Gerry Duggan, except for the Gods interlude, which is like a page and a half by Jonathan Hickman, and drawn by Adam Kubert, Lucio Vecchio, Matteo Lolli, Russell Dauterman, Javier Pina, RB Silva, Joshua Cassara, Kris Anka, Pepe Larraz, and Valerio Schiti. It opens with a flashback to Emma and Scott discussing whether they should tell Miss Marvel the truth about her mutant identity. This is implied to be the previous conversation they alluded to on the beach at the end of X-Men a few weeks ago. Smash cut to the present-ish in Arbor Magna, where scantily clad underage Muslim Kamala Khan emerges from her egg, and Chuck explains that, hey, you finally have a home on Krakoa, so I guess fuck Yusuf and Muniba for giving her a loving home for 16 years, eh? Scott and Emma arrive, and she jokes about how it's still weird seeing Scott as an adult. Emma tries to convince Kamala to come out publicly as a mutant, and Jumbo Carnation shows up to measure her for a new costume and a Hellfire outfit. Emma promises to wipe her parents' memories so they don't realize she'd even died, and Scott takes her to tour the moon and Arakko. I have quarantined all of the Miss Marvel talk here so we can get out whatever rage or praise we have for that scene that had nothing to do with the rest of the issue here, and then we can move on to the gala. First off, I haven't seen enough people talking about it is so presumptuous that they immediately start making her a costume. Like, it's just expected that she's going to go ahead and be an X-Man now. That's indentured servitude. I just want to point that out. It's basically saying we're going to revive you as long as you work for us now. That's like a fucked up level of recruitment.
Yeah, it all just kind of felt weird, especially with her the entire time being like, hey, I don't know that I want to be public about this. And they're all like, but you super do want to be public about this, right? It was very weird.
Yeah, I think the art also just there was no reason for her to be dressed that way. And I've seen a lot of people say like, oh, but all mutants are. It's like, yeah, but we shouldn't override a fake culture over her very real identity as a Muslim character.
Well, and they wouldn't have had to even discuss it from the Muslim perspective if they didn't want to get into it. Like, she's a kid. Just show her with a towel thrown over her or something. Like there's plenty of ways they could have decided that the mutants could have decided to be discreet about it. Like, she didn't know she was popping out of an egg. Like, clearly they had the foresight to give her a robe because usually they're straight up naked. So, like, you'd think they would have been like, oh, here, have a full outfit. Have a jean and some jeans and a t-shirt. Like, there's plenty of ways they could have gone
at least
with
a full length robe.
Yeah.
Like, at least a floor length.
Yeah, the fact that it was like a short robe is
it was like a
weird...
lingerie robe.
Yeah, it was a Hugh Hefner robe. It was like going to the hot tub robe. It was weird.
It's such a weird choice because it's like acknowledging that it's not a great look, but they're also just like, but we still want it to be kind of. I was like,
It's kind of
one
of
those. Could
those.
have just had her surrounded by women. They also could have chosen to have the men leave and just have Jean and Emma and Hope around her at the very least.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was gonna make it like to me, it's a half step to put her in the scantily clad robe that almost puts a spotlight on it. That if she had been naked, I feel like we all would have noticed and thought it was weird. But it almost like amplified it by the fact that they did the half step to give her the sexy lingerie robe. Like, it just icked me. It icked me hard. I did like that they put it in the preview pages, so I was able to kind of process it and like be angry about it days before I read the rest of the issue and not get over it, because clearly I'm still worked up. But I was able to like compartmentalize it in my brain and be like, okay, I got through that. Now let's deal with the actual gala.
Yeah. And I think it kind of highlights the need for these white male writers who aren't Muslim to definitely reach out to people of that experience and of that culture, because when there's people like Ryan North who have blindness consultants, there's no reason why he can't talk to even fellow writers or artists about it and just how to present it in a respectful way.
100%.
And that definitely goes for Wells too.
Oh yeah.
And there's like, it almost comes off to me like Duggan didn't even want to be respectful. Like the literal having Chuck immediately coercing her, it has an ick factor of ew, they didn't honor the culture, but also ew, like they're using it intentionally. Like it feels like that was supposed to be another piece of Chuck's downfall in a way that, like, we don't need that. Chuck's already had his downfall. We don't also need to besmirch a girl's like culture by having her getting coerced by a man in a helmet standing over her 2/3 naked body. Like, there was an intentionality to it that made it almost more aggravating for me.
Mm-hmm. I can agree to that. Was it in the? I feel like it had to have been. Was it in the preview pages where it was like, the leader looked on you with his clear blue eyes? I was just like, what? What are we doing?
Like, I think it is supposed to show just the hubris of Krakoa, but it's uncomfortable. It's corny as fuck. Which there's other parts of this that we're gonna get into. They're corny. There is a corniness factor that is absolutely aggravating here. But
I even like I had a moment of like confusion by it because I just had to double check. Like, it's Rasputin 4 that's saying that, and I'm like, she's a pretty fresh character, like as of right now, but that seems a little out of character to me for Rasputin 4 to be the great X looked on you with his clear blue eyes and removed his helmet. What an honor.
The Rasputin stuff wasn't in the preview pages because that's later.
That's right.
And I mean, there's aspects we'll get to. There's aspects of the Rasputin scene I actually really like, but yes, that part corny as hell. What about the actual like plot decision here? The way they reconcile her being inhuman and mutant by sort of not retconning the Terrigen Mist, but saying like, "Oh no, your X gene hadn't activated, so that's the only reason you weren't poisoned." Like that entire plot of all of Inhumans versus X-Men.
I think the sheer amount of words that they had to use to explain it says it all. The fact that the words took up a half a page says all that we need to know.
It just felt so expository, and like it was just to cut off the person who was gonna email in angrily, and they're like, fine, info dump, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, Terrigen Mist.
Could have been a data page, I feel.
Could have been.
It definitely could have. It could have been half a data page. Like, it could have been included in a different data page just as like a throwaway line to appease the nerds without actually dealing with it.
Could have been a data page. It also could have just never happened at all.
That's the best case scenario, absolutely. Okay, but also, like, logically that introduces such a problem in that now all teenage Inhumans, or all teenage Inhumans that were formed by the Mist have the potential to become X-Men now, right? Like, it's not like she would have been the only one in that. Like, it wasn't something Miss Marvel specific. It was, oh yeah, your X gene hadn't activated, so you were able to. So now we have to worry about every. I said there aren't any Inhumans right now, basically, because they've all been written out.
It's a weird open door for them to kind of do whatever they want later.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this goes in a positive way and results in me seeing Luna Maximoff again, if they want to talk about Inhuman genes and mutant genes interacting, even though they've retconned PHR like a billion times. But
yeah, that would be cool.
They could have used her for this whole plot. Luna was right there, and a canon Inhuman mutant hybrid was right there.
Okay, I have one other bullet point, and then we can bury this part and move on to the actual gala. I'm sorry I'm spending so much time here. The Fallen Friend Death of Miss Marvel issue specifically had like a crap ton of both human and superhero characters attending prayers at Kamala's mosque in commemoration of the characters they all thought had died, and explicitly included both Miss Marvel and Kamala Khan, right? So I kind of feel like Miss Emma is way underestimating how much like memory wiping she's gonna have to do, and she's like, "We'll rewrite your parents' memories." Well, also every single person who attended that funeral, right? Because we just 2 weeks ago saw a whole shit ton of people sad about Kamala dying and Miss Marvel dying.
Yeah, that's very. Yeah, like they wipe just the parents' memories, and then at some point later, Steve just kind of shows up and is talking to your parents. It's like, when I spoke at your daughter's funeral, and they're like, "What?"
All right,
I've gotten most of my rage about that part out.
On Mykonos, the Stepford, is that how do you pronounce the island? Keegan, how would you pronounce it? Mykonos?
Mykonos. I don't know. It looks Greek.
On Mykonos, the Stepford Cuckoos welcome guests to the Hellfire Gala. We see Jumbo Carnation making out with the lighthouse keeper, which is a great throwback to their flirting in Duggan's Marauders. Cuckoos deliver a welcome address, greeting everyone, and introduce Forge's ideas for solving housing and food insecurity. Cyclops gets the alarm at the treehouse from the Free Comic Book Day issue and asks Jean to deliver our news. Juggernaut and Jean have a short chat with her vouching for him as deserving a spot on the team if he'll take it. Destiny and Mystique argue in what's apparently part one of the fight we again saw in Free Comic Book Day issue. Charles takes some time to chat with Miss Marvel, again pressing her to publicly come out as mutant. He hit the gaslight a little hard, reminding her how much pain her parents could have gone through. Rasputin 4, this is what you were talking about, Keegan, hangs out with her for a bit, and I think it's cute because she kind of idolizes Kamala in a really fun flip from the role Kamala has had with like every big superhero she's ever met. Then we get the Hickman written interlude, which shows Dimitri and Wynn, two new characters from the God series debuting this fall, crashing the party. He asks Magic about Magneto's claims in the beginning of the Krakoan era that there are new gods, and reveals that he works for the old ones. All the Avengers in attendance get a distress call and leave. Again, go read the Free Comic Book Day issue. Jean decides it's time to get everyone's attention to reveal the results of the vote. Turns out she and Cyclops are leaving the team, so Talon and Sync are going to take over leadership. Juggernaut makes the team as Jean endorsed him, and he won the real life vote. But so did everyone else from the X vote. So we get an X-Men team of Talon, Sync, Cannonball, Prodigy, Dazzler, Jubilee, and Juggernaut. Dream come true, right? Cue the page, what turns into a gore fest as Nimrod smashes down from space and graphically kills or maims them all. And this is where I put a second breather for me for us to discuss. Everyone won the X vote. Yay, right?
That was so sick. That was sick. It's just
the most diverse X-Men team of all time lasted one page.
I have a note. I have a lot of notes, but I have a note on this specifically. So we had an X-Men team that was half people of color and also half women, and 3 out of those 4 people of color were black.
Yes.
And the survivor and Sync survived, but like our big winner survivor was the white guy.
Yeah. I will say Duggan has, and it probably was more damage control than an actual planned like announcement. But in a couple of interviews he's done this week, he exclusively said like they were chosen for a reason. We haven't seen the last of them, so it sounds like they're going to find a use for this team going forward. But this feels awkwardly like the fridging of Kamala Khan, where
the optics alone are just disgusting. To see all those characters just brutally murdered was not great.
Just the fact that we're gonna have to wait like 6 months really for us to see if they even move forward with that X-Men team. I don't know.
Well, you know they won't be the main X-Men team. It'll be like they'll slap a subtitle on it and give it a 6-issue mini or something. Lesser complaint than all of that, but I said the corny thing earlier. Like that felt so out of place in a like blockbuster high stakes like that wouldn't happen in the Hickman era. Just literally the cheesiness of Nimrod flying down and taking out the whole team in one graphic splash page that mirrors the like reveal of the team. It was just the cheese factor alone was too much for me.
It was shock value. It was 100% shock value.
In that chunk of stuff that happened though, like there was, I feel like of the things I liked most, a lot of them happened in that section of the book there. The gala is a party again this year, which lasted all of 15 pages. But like I said, I genuinely really liked watching Rasputin kind of flipping the table on Kamala Khan. That for all of her existence, that's what we've watched Kamala Khan do, is just fangirl out over everyone she meets. And Rasputin, coming from this future where she got to see Kamala Khan's career all play out, she's just wide-eyed and awestruck at little Kamala Khan. I love that scene. Aside from the quote Keegan read earlier, that was pretty awful.
That's the it's like I'm down with Rasputin for being, fanning out over, meeting Miss Marvel or whatever. That's fine. But it's so much like, oh my god, our white savior looked on you with his perfect blue eyes. It's the blue part about it. It's just so, it's bad optics, especially when you're about to massacre a team that's incredibly diverse.
Well, also though, the dialogue, has Gillen or Ewing given Rasputin that weird, almost Victorian cadence before?
I didn't notice it.
I've never noticed that. Like, I don't want to call it an accent. It is just like a different cadence to her voice, but there's just it felt off. And white saviory. You're right. All of that awful.
Yeah.
To counter those vibes, so there was a line I really did appreciate in that interaction that I actually just wrote it down. But an inhuman, a Muslim, a mutant, a human, a savior of all the tribes. When she was talking to Kamala, I did appreciate them acknowledging
that was a beautiful
fictional, but it was nice that they also wrote Muslim before they wrote mutant. I mean, they wrote inhuman first of all, but I did appreciate that they put that before, especially with everyone's worries of what's going to become of her now that she is a mutant and as a mutant of color. So I just appreciate, even though it's like the bare minimum, the fact that they included it was nice. It was nice to see that on.
No, it was a beautiful line. I 100% agree with you there. I did really appreciate that.
A lot of this issue, I think you really nailed it, Meg. A lot of this issue, like, I feel like I was having to find the bare minimum things to enjoy over everything else that was happening. That's how I personally felt.
See, I feel like I'm walking out here as the most positive on this issue out of the three of us, and I'm kind of surprised by it.
I enjoyed it initially, and then it was on my reread that I was sort of like, because the reason I reread it was to pick it apart, and I feel like I hate being a negative person, but a lot of the Kamala stuff, there was just very clearly a white non-Muslim man writing it.
Mm-hmm. I will say I went through a similar arc where I enjoyed it more on my first read, and going back for my reread, I got more negative. I still feel like I am more positive than the two of you. To me, this is a book of two extremes. Like, I think it's the Duganiest Duggan I've ever read, as dumb of an adjective as that is for me to make up on the fly. But as a collection of story beats, there's a lot of beats here I really enjoy. And it's not until you try to put it together as like a coherent narrative or as a book with a message, because that gets back to the white dude writing a bunch of non-white characters thing, is whatever the overarching message that this is supposed to portray falls apart under any amount of scrutiny. And it's a bummer because there are still, like I said, some beats I really love. So I'm trying to be positive because I want to be, but yeah, I see this conversation not getting any better the deeper we get into it.
I mean, I did get very emotional when reading it the first time, and not in like a I'm so angry way, but like it just made me feel a lot of things. But on the second reread, I was just kind of like, wow, this is literally just trying to tear me apart as a reader and hurting the characters that I love, and it made me a little sad.
Well, part of where I think the like emotional, like the pulling of the heartstrings works so well is that like sci-fi kind of action story writing that Duggan excels at. And so we get like, we're going to get to more of the actual action where stuff's happening. He writes those scenes well. Like the deaths. I'll just say it. Sorry if that spoils it for anyone before I get to them in the summary. A lot of the deaths as they play out are exciting or written well, and it's only when you stop and you think about like how we built to those deaths or what the weight of those deaths are or the meaning behind those deaths that to me it just crumbles under itself.
Yeah. I did have another more positive note before we go
Yeah.
further in the summary,
Yeah.
but I did to a point I appreciated the scene between Sam, David, and Joanna. Now, having a white man writing the black character saying I have mutant friends, that's a whole separate thing. But I did appreciate that moment between the three, and Frenzy looked so good. Like
Yeah.
he was
Okay,
buff
all the costumes
as hell.
maybe a controversial statement. This was the best year of Hellfire outfits, in my opinion. There was some absolutely killer costumes. One of which, the Miles Morales one, looked amazing on the cover, and then did he show up in the issue? He definitely didn't play a part in the issue.
I didn't notice him in the background. Same with
I didn't
Hellcat and
see him.
Hallows Eve.
Yeah. I will say I maybe it's just because I didn't pick up like any of the free comic book day stuff about it, but when the gods stuff was happening, I was like, who are these guys at first?
Okay.
And then they were like, oh, we're the old ones. And I was like, oh, it's the Hickman thing.
Right, which this was definitely him like calling in a favor, like, hey guys, you know how I invented Hellfire Gala? I need a page in it to do my thing. I will say I'm really excited for Gods. I think it's really funny that the main character is basically just him writing John Constantine in the Marvel Universe. Like, that's a pretty ballsy move to be like, I'm doing something that's never been done. It's Constantine. Brought up free comic book day issues. I don't know if this is probably the best spot to bring this up. I think they blew it this year. Like this is different than most years where the free comic book day issues weren't like a preview to what happened. They're like a completely separate addendum almost to what happened here. They end up not tying into the actual gala like at all. So we see scenes that influence what happens at the gala, but then what happens in them, we don't see Captain Krakoa show up at all in the Hellfire Gala issue, even though they framed the first half of the free comic book issue around Captain Krakoa, and then we don't see the U.S. or the Uncanny Avengers setup play out at all here, other than the Avengers leaving because they got a call for it. So it makes me think that they're gonna release like a special edition director's cut or something where the scenes from the free comic book day are like spliced in where they belong in this issue. And maybe some of the scenes from Iron Man. It just feels like this story at 90 pages long is incomplete without some of this supplemental material, which is so weird. And I don't like doing the free comic book day issues that way.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're gonna make your Hellfire Gala require this much supplementary material, make it an event for a month long, like you did with the first one, and every book told a different aspect of the gala. I think that would have benefited this one a lot if every single book had a different POV of this horrific gala.
And with how much happened here, cramming it into a single issue did not do it justice.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. Having had each of the writers showing us different perspectives of the characters going through this really cataclysmic event would have been really cool. Gabriel Nimrod, Bobby's inhuman boyfriend Romeo, tries to buy magic time to teleport everyone away, but she can't because the Stark Sentinel gave her nanites a couple issues ago. She cut his face and the nanites invaded. Iceman tries to protect his boyfriend, but Nimrod stabs him with some unknown tech, and he melts, and his dying words while reaching for Romeo is to call out for Scott, Jean, and Warren, his oldest friends. Absolutely horrifying imagery as he melts and dies. Good thing he's back alive next week. Nimrod turns his attention to Jean, who flings Juggernaut at him. This cues the Stark Sentinels to attack en masse, followed by the arrival of Dr. Stasis, Karima Shapandar, and MODOK. Chuck immediately threatens Stasis, who invites him to read his mind. He reveals that during the last gala, he successfully poisoned all of their Krakoan medicine. As a demonstration, MODOK activates the humans present to fling themselves to their deaths. Kate Pride takes down a Sentinel, but Nimrod, having survived getting hit by him, flings the Juggernaut through the tower and brings the entire thing down. Jean catches everyone and brings them safely to Earth, while insisting, as the greatest telepath on the planet, she's just going to rewrite Orcus' minds and make them accept mutants. Never fear, Orcus fans! Moira shows up and stabs her with the Blightswill sword. Cyclops reaches out to her at that moment, revealing that the Call of the Treehouse was a trap and that his battered body can't feel his legs. The rest of the mutants rally at the sight of Jean's dying corpse, but Chuck surrenders and freezes all mutants where they stand. Moira makes it clear if he doesn't have all mutants leave Earth, they'll start killing humans. Charles takes over every mutant and orders them to go through the nearest gate. Meanwhile, psychically, Jean reaches out to Firestar and informs her that they have all lost, but that there are some tricks up her sleeve yet. She wants to plant a false memory in all of the Orcus players' minds that she is a mole, and she reluctantly accepts. We see the fake memory of Dr. Stasis meeting her before she became an X-Man. Chuck makes the final order, "Go, my X-Men!" We see some using Charles' own red triangle defense against psychic attacks to not follow his orders, doing their best to resist, fight back. It's revealed that Mother Righteous has taken the Atlantic Krakoan archipelago. We always see that on the maps. There's the Pacific set of islands, then the ones in the Atlantic. So she captures the Atlantic one, sticks them in her lantern as a prize to hide. We get a lot of shots of Chuck, like, anguishing over what he's doing as the mutants march through the gates. Jean visits both Scott and Logan as she dies to say goodbye. An entire Orcus army is apparently trying to force Wolverine through the gate and pretty much failing. Exodus gets psychically reminded by Chuck that the best way to save the five is them going through the gates. So we see him literally shoving all five of them through one of the gates. Mystique gets pissed at Chuck for trying to control her, so she just chucks herself off a cliff, which brings Dr. Stasis and MODOK a sick level of joy. Like, they're just laughing in the looking down on this poor woman. Moira gets angry at all the remaining resisting mutants and orders their death, but Lords teleports them away, not before she takes some bullets. It's a one-way trip, and she dies on the floor of the Hellfire Club. Orcus celebrates, and Moira prepares to kill Chuck. Dr. Stasis protects Firestar as his ally. At the Hellfire Club, they discover the gates no longer work, and Dr. Stasis reveals to the remaining human diplomats that there can be no survivors as the Orcus guards open fire. Rogue flies in to save Charles, though he comes to a terrifying revelation. Everyone who went through the red gates, the ones that Orcus has modified, they're all dead. He orders her to go, to avenge them, to avenge Krakoa. And then we get a post-credit scene because not enough had happened yet. Kate leans on one of the gates again, like she always does, and falls right through because apparently now that the gates don't work for everyone else, they do work for her. Whoops. I really did not like them including that. Like, that felt like completely out of place, and it stole so much of the weight of Chuck's revelation at the end.
It felt silly.
Yeah.
All right, so I will say an overarching theme I noticed through this whole Nimrod battle is that a lot of characters, I hate to say this word, you guys know that I despise power scaling, but everybody seems super nerfed. So one of the things I realized was that Magic, even though her mutant ability was not available to her for reasons, she knows magic. So I thought the fact that she didn't use a teleportation spell was a little strange. The Exodus seemed super weak. Proteus seemed super weak. So I think if we had some way to take them off the board another way would have made, considering that they had a Omega level reality warper on their side and he just turned the Sentinels to glass. That felt
Exodus
and
is
they,
so interesting to me because it was literally last week or 2 weeks ago. It was the last issue of Immortal that we saw him at his strongest ever. Yeah. He talked about spreading her atoms as far as physically imaginable to the edges of the universe. But all it takes is Nimrod coming in, being his goofy ass self, just tossing people around, and oh no, Exodus can't do a thing anymore.
I think they could have Blightswilled their way out of it, but they were kind of saving it for the Jean moment or something. I'm not sure. But it just seemed super strange for them to be like, look at how many Omegas we have in recent issues, and then suddenly they're helpless to some Sentinels.
It's interesting they didn't bother even like half-assing the Blightswell thing of being like, oh, someone spiked the punch with Blightswell, so everyone is
Yeah.
slightly weaker. Like that would have been such an easy throwaway to at least
Especially with
justify
the
it
emphasis on
moderately.
Proteus. Like, they were like,
Yeah.
look at him turning this to glass. I'm like, he could literally wipe them all out with, like, a thought, right? Like, that's kind of his thing. Feels strange that they were like, look at him do this, as if we were supposed to be like, oh, man, tried his hardest there.
Well, don't we have a few that are supposed to be, like, literally immortal? Like, isn't Dazzler supposed to be literally unkillable? Has that been retconned at some point? Like, there's multiple characters that I feel like died without, like, actually being, like, canonically being able to die. That's really frustrating to me, but...
Yeah. I hate to be that person that's like, oh, but the powers. But
I
it was just
know.
something I noticed throughout the issue that I was like, this feels lazy.
Well, you know, it's I think the difference is you know, when it's a bad thing about, oh, their powers, it's because, you know, as people are arguing about inconsequential stuff. But in this case, it's like, hey, be consistent with the way that you write your characters and how they interact with your world.
Yeah, there's a difference between, like, getting a boner for a character being the strongest character and having legitimate concerns about strengths not being addressed because of lazy storytelling. Like
Especially
I feel,
Hope.
yeah.
There's a difference between like Goku solos and then also being upset that like Rocky Balboa beat Goku. Like there's a difference between the two situations. You're not playing by your own rules.
I would actually love a well-written Rocky beats Goku story, but it needs to justify itself. That's the thing power scalers don't seem to understand, is like, it's in how you do it. It's in how you justify it.
And how this was done was not well.
Yes.
Reminds me of another note I made, but when they made a whole thing about Kamala not knowing what her mutant power is, couldn't like Hope or Sync just be like, oh, got it, okay.
Oh, you mean like the ones that like can take power?
Like, oh, they're like, oh, we want her to figure it out, but like just for the logs, just for the data.
Yeah.
Well, that is also again being inconsistent with how Cerebro works, because historically Cerebro could tell you what someone's power was.
Right, but guys, we have to save the Kamala power reveal for Iman Vellani's miniseries when it looks just like the MCU powers. That's why we have to save it.
You like leave Iman out of this.
I'm not blaming Iman. I'm just saying, you know, that's the reveal.
You haven't seen the episode yet because we're gonna do our marathon, but we defended him on hard last episode, but also talked about how it's really clear this is Disney getting around the SAG-AFTRA strike in a kind of shitty way. That she's not going to be able to promote the Marvels, so instead she's going to promote the Miss Marvel comic book, and that's
yeah.
Okay, so Jean, when she's dying, tells Scott, "I loved you," past tense. And then as she's fading away, he says, "I love you," in the present tense.
Loved that for her. I'm so glad she's in her divorce arc. She's checked out. I'm really happy for her.
Is it a divorce arc? So, okay.
It is to me. Let me have this, please.
You could totally go there with it. I don't think that it's going to be immediately. I thought they were writing it as they had reconciled, because they ended the last X-Men issue with her giving the, like, if you want to come with me, you can, but I'm going either way. And then in this issue, he is going with her. So it seemed like they had reconciled in the one night that passed since that X-Men issue. But
she
then,
said loves to Logan too.
Well, that's the like, is she coming back as, like, does she know she's not dying, but she's like ascending to some higher form?
I'm taking this as Jean's coming out arc. That's
I'll
what
take
I'm
it.
deluding
I'll
myself
take it.
into.
Hey, maybe I would much prefer that. Like, that's.
I mean, listen.
It just felt very intentional.
She and Phoenix are gonna go kick some girls. That's my theory here.
He's saying her goodbyes. At this point, very well, the Five could be dead, if as far as she's concerned.
Right.
And so maybe she's saying left because she doesn't know if she's coming back, and she's not in her divorce arc because you can't divorce a dead body. So, you know.
Death has never stopped her before.
Yeah, she makes it like kind of like a whole big thing. Like everyone's
Yeah.
like, ah, she'll be back. Phoenix and all that.
To me, it's not so much just the fact that she used the past tense, but the fact that he doesn't, that makes it feel like it's a thing, but maybe not. Speaking of things that had just happened at that treehouse, literally the night before, since they intentionally went out of their way to say that issue was only one night before the gala, was Lorna still hanging out at the treehouse as it burns? Because remember, she was at the treehouse, like mourning Magneto's death, and Jean explicitly told her, like, stay as long as you need to.
Well, I'm sure they have like a fire drill.
I want to see Lorna more.
So does
I miss
everyone
that.
else. It's okay.
I miss that girl.
You know what I had a real hard time with is the changing art styles.
I love that.
Yeah, I like the
liked it.
intention behind it. The getting every major artist of the Krakoan era back in there was cool, but it was a little jarring at times. Yeah.
And some of the art styles did not jive with me in the moments that they were drawn.
Okay.
That's just for me personally. Some of it I was like, eh.
I feel like sometimes it was good to signify a scene change, but sometimes it just happened in like the middle of things going on, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's part of it for me. It's like sometimes it felt like it was like just mid conversation, it would just change.
Yeah. Can we abstract out from like the little details for a minute and talk? We know we've got some of these characters that we didn't see really survived. Like we know Astonishing X Iceman starts next week. We know some of these characters are stranded. That's the Realm of X book. What is Fall of X going to actually look like in your minds?
I'm not ready. I'm not emotionally prepared for all of that.
Like, other than the people we saw literally die on screen, like who's dead? Like are did any of the people that went through the gates actually die? Do we think they all survived and all got stranded?
I don't know about everyone being dead like that.
Well, like we know some survived.
Yeah.
I think everyone's alive, right? Like everyone that went through the gates is just cut off from him psychically, but they're all alive, right?
I think he just rushed. He was like, I can't feel them. They must be dead. Like, all right, calm down.
Yeah, I think it's much more likely that Charles is so up his own ass that he's like, if I can't detect them, then they have to be dead. There's no other explanation. I think that that's much more Chuck speed than them all be like 250,000 dead.
Well, we saw Destiny willingly go through, and I feel like that's a big signifier, as well as talk from the other side of the gate.
That's true. We saw her continue to speak after she went through the gate. Speaking of Destiny, I just want to run through all the Chekhov guns that we've got, like things that we know are loaded in the chamber and have to go off at some point. We have Destiny putting Manifold in that like river coffin and being like, he's the key to this. He has to survive, and like sending him away to safety. And so you figure he's going to be like most of their rides home. You've got Doug literally hanging out in Krakoa right now. Like the tree grabbed him and pulled him down to protect him. You've got Mother Righteous with her like saving the bonus island, being like, I'm gonna hoard it. And you have the promise of democratically elected leadership for Krakoa. And like Kieran Gillen ain't gonna tease us with that and never give it to us. So we know we have to have enough people survive to come together and be like, hey, a new version of the council, this is who it's gonna be. So to me, we have so much shit going on that like they're gonna get beat down for 6 months. We're gonna have some really dark times, but this isn't the final death of Krakoa they're implying, and there's no way it could be, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Am I being too optimistic? Like
no, I'm on your. I mean, we literally got the Rise of X hint.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
I think
Rise of 10, maybe, whatever. But still, we got a Rise somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, Yeah, Rise of Powers of 10, but then they'll just call it Rise of X when they shorten it, just like they shortened the Fall of House of X to Fall of X.
Yeah.
Uh,
Saved the day, first of all. Nobody is talking about that. Nobody. I have seen not one person admit that our girl is the reason everybody's okay. The ones that are like most important.
yeah.
It's true.
I'm devastated about her death. She died in like the queerest way ever in her girlfriend's arms. Loved that,
Yeah.
I guess. A consolation prize for me.
When
That
was
for me
last
specifically.
When was last time we saw her? Was it last gala? Like,
She was in Captain America. She gave Emma a ride.
right?
I'm pretty sure that was the last time we saw her.
Yeah.
She looked lovely. She looked
She did.
beautiful.
She did.
She went out swinging for sure.
It was
Man.
also pretty cool to see. Well, obviously he wrote that connection in, but to see Fisk protecting her was kind of nice.
That was cool.
To remind us of the connection there.
In his Anders from Dragon Age cosplay.
Fisk had a good showing here.
Yeah.
I'm kind of liking Krakoa and Fisk, I got to admit. It's been fun.
He seems to be in it for more than Mary, which is interesting.
Well, and he's going to be on a vengeance run now for Mary, which will be fun. Angry Wilton Fisk is always the best Wilson Fisk.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we didn't get to see them, but the idea of Talon and Sync, like couple leading an X-Men team, I really like. I know a lot of people have an issue with Talon, but she's really grown on me. I like the two Lauras. I'm cool with two Lauras as long as they keep differentiating them from each other.
Yeah, I would love to see Talon and Sync lead an X-Men team. I think that would be
diverse team of really cool heroes.
If only we could have something like that. That would be so cool.
That's such a cool theory, Keegan.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing to see on the page.
Well, clearly we're all upset with Gerry Duggan. So any final thoughts on this? Should we close the door on the Duggan?
I mean...
Are we closing the door?
We can't. We still got to talk about a whole nother comic book.
That was going to be my joke. That was the joke I was going to make. Once we finally agreed to move on, it was going to be great. Then we talk about Invincible Iron Man 8.
Written by Gerry Duggan.
Yep, written by Gerry Duggan, drawn by Juan Frigeri. It opens with Tony meeting with She-Hulk about the whole Rhodey got arrested helping me commit corporate espionage thing. He decides he should put away the Iron Man armors because of the cease and desist order he got, but he gets a distress call from Captain America, goes to the Brooklyn Bridge to find Rogue and Captain America there. This issue officially ties more in with the Free Comic Book Day issue than the Hellfire Gala did. The story cuts to later that night where he finds Emma and Kingpin about to get sniped by a Sentinel like in a skyscraper. Fei Long orders the Sentinels to kill Tony and Emma, so they brawl, they bicker. They're apparently getting married next month. She goes to get on the subway, but two Sentinels basically fly at each other in stealth mode and squish Tony between their fists, and so she psychically realizes, oh no! So she runs back to him and enters his dying psyche to give him one of those, you can't just let go. You gotta fight, Tony. You gotta fight. Let's go. So he wakes up and the Sentinels corner them again. Tony surrenders on the one condition that Fei Long doesn't kill Emma, and he agrees to take them both prisoner, but Tony has other ideas. He sends the armor to Emma and makes her fly away, and then kind of coy. I appreciated the smartness here. As Fei Long's about to kill him, he's like, oh yeah, kill the leading Avenger. That'll be great public PR. So then Fei Long has to take him hostage, and I don't know. I need the Emma Frost fangirl's opinion on this issue.
It's the same one I've had since the beginning of this all went down. Get away from her. Get a job. I've been ever since they announced the wedding, I'm just like, well, they've got to give us a little bit of build up, and all her appearances are so not,
unsexy,
inconsequential,
boring, dry.
She deserves so much better. I need him to get away from her. And when I say him, I also mean Duggan. I need pretty much hashtag free Emma Frost. Get it trending.
Honestly, yeah.
I can't.
I came
can't
into
do
this
it.
wanting to defend the gala. Like I said, it had beats I enjoyed. There was nothing redeemable about this issue to me. I was bored out of my mind reading this.
I found myself so many times being like, is this over yet? Like, can I just be done with this friggin' issue? Here's the thing, I do not like Tony Stark and Iron Man to begin with. And then it's like all of this. I'm just like, nah.
I don't understand how the Sentinels didn't just kill him like 6 different times when they had the chance. Like,
because he's just a dude? Is that you mean because he's just a guy in a metal suit?
he lost like 9 times in a row and never fought his way back. He just kept losing, and then it was like, oh, I guess I'll carry on, and then he loses again, and then I guess I'll carry on, and he loses again. It's just so
I guess
weird.
something interesting we can all theorize about was that Emma was signing something away to Fisk. That was what he walked in on.
That's true. And this whole situation is so interesting to me because I can't figure out. We know it's going to be a wedding of like political gains, and now from solicits we know it's tied to apparently Howard Stark was a member of the Hellfire Club, and like his membership gets Tony into the Hellfire Club, and so like that's going to be one of the connections, and so he becomes the Black King. And but
I could have sworn Howard never actually joined.
Oh, probably not.
That
I
they
bet
tried
you
to
this,
get him in and he rejected membership, but I'm not 100%.
I bet you this is a retcon because this is this seems out of left field. But
and why do we have to bring back Howard? Nobody likes Howard.
Well, I don't think we're actually going to see him. I think that's just the excuse they're using to go down this path.
Why even mention him?
Yeah, leave his Walt Disney ass in the grave.
That's fair. That's fair. But what I can't figure out is who's gonna be. Is this gonna be like he is somehow saving Krakoa's ass, or is this Krakoa, even though we keep hearing how broke they are, is gonna try to buy out like Stark Unlimited somehow? I can't figure out which way they're going.
Another thing I truly hate, and also this goes for Lourdes dying in the basement of the club, but putting these two women back in a situation where they were both being victims of abuse at the hands of Shaw, and be like, oh, she's the White Queen again. And I get that that's her brand, and we're probably always going to throw her back in there. But we just had the Cuckoos, which also I wonder if they're even alive. But the Cuckoos are the White Queen. He wrote that. And he wrote he wrote Lourdes becoming the Black Queen and did nothing with that. So now we're having Black King Tony and White Queen Emma again. So both the Cuckoos and Lourdes have been ousted from their positions.
Yep.
I'm just like, just let them out. Like, they both hate that club so much, and there's no reason for them to go back to it. They could use the company, I guess, but the fact that it's specifically the Hellfire Club just makes me not happy.
Well, and surely Shaw is going to get called out on the fact that he was somehow tipped off and just no-showed the gala, right? Like, that can't be just left to the side. They're going to have him get his ass kicked for that, hopefully.
Hopefully by Lourdes, whenever she comes back.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
She deserves
and not
it.
written by Duggan. Have that happen in a Gillen issue.
Exactly. I wonder if it's like Fisk money going to Emma to help Tony.
I could see that.
I'm wondering if that's like the chain of events.
By the framing of it, it seemed as though Emma was signing something away to him because he told her she wouldn't regret it.
That was the dialogue we saw, but I could see that being like recontextualized. Like that seems like the kind of like bait and switch Duggan would like. So I could see that.
She might have given an IOU perhaps to him.
Yeah.
In exchange for the money.
Right.
It
like her being like, I don't like relying on human men for my well-being, and then it cuts to him being like, trust me, you won't regret it.
Okay, so this was Iron Man 8.
That's Keegan, 8 too many.
I was just saying, you only read one before this, right? Like you've only read the ones that we absolutely had to. Yeah. Meg, how deep into the Duggan Iron Man have you been? Have you been following it? Not really.
I read the ones with Emma on the cover because I paid for them and felt like I had to.
Okay. Well, I like how like one of the issues with her wasn't even like present day. It was just a random flashback.
and they put her in this stupid White Queen. I have a lot of feelings about White Queen Emma Frost, but they put her back in the costume. They're putting her back in the club. Just
don't
let
worry.
her go.
Don't worry, she's gonna be White Queen again in just I think it's 2 months. I think next month is the wedding, and then the month after is her as queen with like evil ass looking Black King Tony. Like that cover is grim.
I'm just not like. I feel like we're getting so much buildup, and the wedding is supposed to happen next issue, and it's like it's gonna be so rushed, and it just it feels so.
It's all
weird.
this buildup without any actual buildup.
Exactly, they're building up the concepts of them possibly getting married rather than them getting married next issue.
Man, it's like Duggan's turning into Benjamin Percy or something. Hey, speaking of that, any last thoughts on Iron Man, or do you guys want to talk Wolverine?
Hashtag free Emma. Hashtag free Lourdes.
Hashtag revive Lourdes. Sorry.
Don't remind me.
Wolverine 35, written by Benjamin Percy, drawn by Juan Jose Ryp, opens with Beast lecturing his clones in the form of a joke, apparently not wanting these guys to mutiny like the last batch did. Jeff Bannister, still held captive, offers his own joke. Knock knock, and the final reveal is a full swing headbutt on Beast Prime. X-Force, who do more in this issue of Wolverine than the entire team did in the whole last fucking arc of their own book, decide to lay siege to the Beast Kaiju base. Data page reveals that the whole time travel adventure was finally the last straw for Sage, who won't let things stand. That Beast guy, you know what? That rascal needs to be taken down a peg. So Wolverine and Maverick attempt their prisoner exchange with Beast, although it's obvious they're just stalling for time. X-Force moves through the base, killing clones pretty indiscriminately. They find his cloning tanks, and Deadpool wants to free some extra Deadpools, but Domino shuts him down. Bannister points out that the Beast at the meeting couldn't possibly be the real Beast Prime because he's using reading glasses. Wolverine kills him, frees the Wolverine clones from their control collars, so they start helping take out the Beasts. X-Force reaches Beast's chamber, and we're reminded that the Cerebro Sword is the weapon that's making the whole operation possible. They kill all the clones except Beast Prime, who escapes with the sword. Sage from Wolverine debrief, where he announces, "That's it, I'm leaving Krakoa," which didn't hold a lot of weight when I read it after reading the gallows. Oh, good, you're leaving that island that's on fire. And it's all so we can go hang out with Ghost Rider for his crossover for the next 3 issues. This book, on the cover, decries it as the conclusion of the Weapons of X arc. What concluded, Keegan? What conclusion have we reached here in the 35th issue of Wolverine?
You're not going to like my answer, but I liked this better than the gala.
All right, guys, I think it's time for me to go. Great time recording.
Hang on, don't say anything smart. I'll be right back.
The Penguin.
Let's talk about him.
The Penguin. Every time he throws his headphones off, I just scream the Penguin now.
All right, Meg, I'm just gonna talk to you for a minute. Keegan, I'm gonna mute your mic.
That's fine.
How much Wolverine are you reading currently?
You know, my comic book store held the Emma Frost Timeless variant for me, so I read that. That was like 31. I don't know what number this was. I sort of accessed it through unsavory means before the show.
Don't blame you. Don't blame you.
Just to know what's going on.
I'm so glad to hear you did not give Benjamin Percy your money.
I thought it was dumb. He was just like, okay. All right, I guess.
So,
but to be fair, I haven't read like anything else.
That's totally fair. I teased him. I do want to hear Keegan's genuine thoughts. Like, do you mean when you say that, just that's how much you disliked the gala, or are you arguing this was good Percy? Because I've made the argument that there is such a thing as good Percy issues. I've enjoyed certain issues of his runs. Which way are you actually going here?
I had fun.
Oh, yeah. Them climbing up through the kaiju was kind of fun, so I'm fine with that.
I'm gonna be honest. I just had a kind of a fun time with it. Like the climbing up through the kaiju was fun for me. I thought Jeff Bannister having his headbutt moment was fun.
Okay.
The Beast being so cocky. The glasses are the dead giveaway was fun for me. The clones turning on him because the smartest mutant didn't even consider that the healing mutant's brain would heal. I just thought there was a lot of fun to it. And, in terms of like the Weapons of X arc ending, like, yes, it was mislabeled, but almost everything is mislabeled these days. But most of the actual Weapons of X are dead. There's 3 more, and he's gonna go kill them.
I hear you. Beast as a bitch ass villain is going on, what is it, 20 issues of Wolverine and 40 issues of X-Force, because he kind of was on his downward spiral from the beginning of the X-Force run. They hyped this as he finally was going to get some comeuppance. This was like every 60s cartoon of like, oh, I've been foiled, so I'm going to get away. And then like leaving in his spaceship. So he's back to square one, but like Beast isn't really defeated. And he gets to leave with his Cerebro sword. I have to go off on the fucking Cerebro sword again because I just still... Okay, so Magneto created it as a gift after Xavier's resurrection. What was that, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Like, it was this beautiful symbol to remind Charles of the fragility of Krakoa. And Percy's like, no, it's a brain control sword. It's a brain control sword, guys. Like, that's all. It's been the fucking like tease for probably a year now. That's like, oh, Beast he goes in and just stares at it. He's tempted by it. What's he gonna use it for? And the big reveal is that it's the brain control sword. It controls brains. What the fuck?
I mean, that's a fair complaint. I'm just saying. I thought it was fun, and he did get some comeuppance. His base go boom.
I appreciate everything you're saying. This wasn't like the most egregious Percy issue ever, but it's so aggravating because even the justifications we've been giving him lately, because we went out of our way to say like, oh yeah, this X-Force arc, completely pointless, but at least like it's just because it's where they're pushing off the X-Force characters so that they don't actually so Wolverine can be the one to deal with Beast. So they're off doing the time travel thing. But apparently they got back from the time travel thing and had more to do in this issue than they did in the entire time travel story. So
quick question.
Why was it? Yeah.
They were time traveling in X-Force? What is going on?
Okay,
so in X-Force, Quentin comes back and takes the X-Force on a Sins of Sinister ripoff, where instead of it's the Sins of Sinister, it's the bad deeds of Beast.
May I explain it, please?
Go for it.
You lost me at Quentin.
Okay.
I hate him so much.
Okay, so Kid Omega died like a year ago, and so when the Wolverine quits X-Force and is like, I'm just gonna go kill Beast, and that was like 6 issues ago because everything has to take way too many issues. So while the Weapons of X arc has been running, which is what's been happening in the Wolverine book, where Beast makes all these clones and has a kaiju base and is marching around the ocean, the Quiet Council's like, we'll just ignore it. Like, literally, that's what they do. They debate it, and they're like, well, he's not actually us anymore, so we'll ignore it. We don't need to stop him. So the actual X-Force team gets visited by an old man version of Kid Omega, because apparently he survived and went bouncing through time, and now he's a creepy old man, and he's like, guys, Beast has fucked up the future. Let's back to the future it. And so he takes them to 3 separate futures with different post-apocalyptic Beast futures, one of which he's like a Cthulhu-like Beast, one of which he's literally Nimrod Beast, and what was the middle one, Keegan? It was the one with the moon was his face, but what was Beast actually in that one?
I don't.
Or was he the moon? I don't remember. But anyways, so all 3 of them. So Quentin's dragging them to these dumb futures, and like Keegan said, it's totally like Percy was just upset he didn't get to write Sins of Sinister, so he was like, I'm gonna do my own Sins of Sinister. But all 3 of them, the team did nothing. They just like followed Quentin around as Beast got beat, and they never explained why he needed them there, because one of them, Quentin, kills them. One of them, it dies by eating Omega Red, and it can't digest him, so it dies. And one of them, Quentin and Deadpool kill it. So literally, Quentin just does the work in 2 of the alternate futures. Also, one of them was given the Cerebro sword, so it's not really explained how the current Beast also has the Cerebro sword when it's buried in a sarcophagus in Egypt, but that's what X-Force has been doing for the last 3 issues, is a Beast planted future versions of himself that created alternate realities they had to go destroy. So they went and they did that.
Well,
so you're not missing anything.
A book.
Yeah, it's a book that exists.
You know what? I rate them both 2 out of 10. 1 point for Domino existing and 1 point for Sage existing, because at least they're somewhere.
I'll give it to you. Actually, I will say probably the strongest long form thing he's done is the Sage arc. Like, I like that she had her alcoholism bout. She hit rock bottom and she was built back up in a realistic way. And like the little scene of Wolverine being like, I got your back, but Krakoa, no way. I appreciated.
Yeah. Also, fun, old Quentin Quire looks a lot like Merlin from like Sword in the Stone, if you ask me.
Yeah. I'm curious if he's still gonna be old now that they're back and he doesn't need to. I don't know. They're gonna have to.
I prefer him dead. I think the best Quentin is a dead Quentin. I think we never have to talk about him again. I think he could just stay away forever. I don't know why Percy decided that's his guy. I need him gone.
You're saying you don't understand why Benjamin Percy relates to the virgin nerd of the X-Men?
Okay, we don't need to go there.
You're telling me that you don't understand how he would relate to the kid that reminds you of the kid that like plays with matches on the playground and eats his boogers? You're telling me you don't understand why he relates to him?
Holden Caulfield.
I don't know the guy. I can't come for the guy.
Shall we talk about the best book of the week?
Are you saying Deadpool 9 is your favorite book? Because I'm gonna love you if you are.
Absolutely. Best book of the week.
I am so upset this run is ending. Are you guys ready to talk Deadpool 9?
Yes.
Yep.
It's okay if you didn't read it, Meg. I know it's not like your wheelhouse.
I skimmed it.
Okay. Written by Alyssa Wong, drawn by Luigi Zagaris. It opens with Lady and Lord Deathstrike turning Deadpool and Valentine's beaten bodies over to the Atelier, apparently undercutting the... What were the names of the trio that actually beat him last issue? Anyways, the Italian members that beat him went off at the end of last issue to call the Horned Emperor, but apparently the Deathstrikes beat him to it, which is fun to see. At the Atelier HQ, Deadpool is just getting his face stepped on by the Horned Emperor. They're beating the ever-living shit out of him to get him to convince Princess, the Carnage dog, since you only skimmed it, Meg, he has a dog that is part Carnage, and she is super, super loyal. She's awesome. Great character.
He gave birth. He gave birth to Princess.
Yeah, he's technically its dad, but that's a whole other thing because the Harrower injected him with a fetus and then okay. Where am I? When he doesn't cave, Lady Deathstrike returns. Oh no. Lord Deathstrike returns him to his cell with Valentine. Lady Deathstrike comes by, tells Deadpool he better get his shit together for Princess's sake. Gives Valentine part of their arm back. Valentine reveals their backstory, that they lived with the Atelier since they were a child, and the pictures of the Horned Emperor went back decades, so they think, Horned Emperor is like immortal. They fight, but make up, revealing Deadpool really, truly loves them. Also, they escape by activating more dormant clone babies. Apparently, the Harrower didn't just have the Carnage baby. There was a bunch of them, including what looks like an impish Nightcrawler that I really hope we get to meet someday. Together, they attack and kill the Horned Emperor, only for Valentine to become the new Horned Emperor, revealing that it's not a person, but a role that has to be filled. There's only one more issue of this comic. They have officially turned issue 10 into the finale, and I am furious because this is the first Deadpool that's not incel trash.
It is like the grandest disappointment that they are ending this. I believe in Alyssa Wong's supremacy. They are such a good writer. They have made me care about Deadpool so much. I love Valentine. The way that I laughed when Valentine called Falling in Love some truly idiot clown shit. Like, I lost my mind. That was so funny. I love this series so much.
Yeah. It's added in 9 issues a depth to the character that should never have any depth. Like, not should. That Deadpool seemed like he would always be this shallow, vapid piece of shit that would be impossible to like. And Alyssa Wong has made me genuinely care about him. Like, I am rooting so hard for his relationship. And with the appearance that Kevin Scott is taking over, I don't know that this relationship is going to get the justice it deserves, but I hope it does, and I hope Princess sticks around because Princess is cool.
I just really appreciate them finally giving him a queer love interest. His sexuality has always been a punchline since we've been told that he's a pansexual character. His flirting with men or relationships with men are just a joke. So it's nice to see that that's not so much the case, and to see them drawn as an actual non-binary character. I know there was, I think, one issue where they looked a little more femme, but it's just nice to see an androgynous character on the page as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you haven't been reading it, so we have talked before about how much we appreciate the inclusion of the non-binary character and the lack of jokes about it. And what I love is Alyssa Wong is non-binary themselves, and so part of what is really interesting is they've managed to prove like all of the dude bros wrong, that they do make jokes about the sexuality, but not at the sexuality. Like, still to me, one of my favorite jokes they made all along was in the first issue. He was like, Deadpool was writing potential pet names, and he comes up with Inbae, like in like ENBAE, and it was such a great punchline that was about their gender identity, but not at it. It was just a joke about the gender identity in a really tactful way that really proved that, like, because that is always the way they throw it back. It's like, oh, I can't make a joke about anything. Like, no, you can joke about it, just not without malice. Like, make a joke, like, embracing it, not like tearing it down.
Especially with a character like Deadpool, it's usually like, oh, look, it's him flirting with a guy. See, it's funny because it's a guy and it's gay. Ha 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 ha.
Definitely. I do think this issue introduces a arc with the non-binary identity that might be interesting, because this was the first time the Horned Emperor was revealed as being non-binary as well. And so I'm really curious if, and we only have an issue for play out, so maybe it won't, but that there is some connection with the role of the Horned Emperor and the non-binary identity. That the two people that we've seen fill that role have both lacked or have both had a non-binary gender identity is really interesting.
They looked really cool in that art, in that
final.
the Horned Emperor.
Oh, it was an upgrade for the Horned Emperor. Horned Emperor Valentine is way cooler than OG Horned Emperor, for sure.
The to be concluded page where Valentine is just like embracing it is so cool. I just loved it so much.
I cannot believe how much I have fallen in love with this book. Like,
I know.
I just, and we sometimes we didn't talk a ton about an issue. We just said, oh yeah, I really liked it, and then we moved on because it didn't have a ton happen in it. But I'm gonna miss this book so much. I know I defended Hellfire Gala more than you guys did, but this was my favorite issue of the week as well. I loved it.
I had so much fun with this issue this week, and it was a real pick-me-up from everything else. This was my favorite issue of the week, bar none.
Yeah.
I will say I'm very excited for their run on Captain Marvel coming up.
Yes. Rainbow Rowell's She-Hulk had a similar where it didn't announce itself as a finale. It just eventually the solicit changed and added like conclusion to it. But it's getting relaunched as Savage She-Hulk, Ravishing.
I think Sensational.
Sensational She-Hulk, and is getting a new #1. So to me, there's still slim hope that we're getting just a new Alyssa Wong #1, and they're still on it. But we will find out. All right, I know we are at like 1 a.m. Meg's time. So you guys ready to go around the Marvel Universe?
Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's go through the really quickie ones first.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on Storm 3?
Glad that Kitty's hair finally changed back.
Yeah.
Thank God.
it's hard because I've been rooting for this book from the first issue. I tried to convince Keegan it was worth like following as an actual book we read, but it really does feel very paint by numbers at this point, and I don't know that there needs to be a ton of focus on it. I am still hoping that some of this will end up tying into things that the characters are doing in the present, but it doesn't seem like they're doing that with any of these throwbacks. They keep queuing up that there's the opportunity for it to connect somehow, and then they don't. So
to me, it's still like the better of the throwbacks, but it still doesn't do a ton for me.
And then Excellent Five wrapped up. Didn't really wrap up. They're clearly going to do another 6-month wait and then a volume 3. So I really like that all red art. I love all red art. Have you been reading this one at all, Meg?
Nope.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I don't blame you at all. Wish that could be me.
This is a really hard one for me to talk about because it's a follow-up to Ecstatics, which is a book I really loved as a teenager and was like really fun, poignant commentary on reality TV. And Cake and I have talked about this on a previous episode, or probably 2 at this point, now that we're on issue 5, that Peter Milligan tries to do the same thing here, but he's trying to do commentary on social media, and he's a boomer. He's in his 60s, and it just comes off as something that might have kind of been relevant commentary in 2011. Like it's so out of touch. The like we're gonna fight for who can get 1 trillion follows first, who can get the most likes. It just feels so the opposite of biting, gumming. Like it's gumming commentary.
Yeah, it's boomer humor through and through.
Yeah, absolutely. Did either of you read Ultimate Invasion number 2? I know it didn't end up tying into the X-Men much yet, but
I didn't.
I forgot. Touched it.
I forgot that it came out. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It was an enjoyable read. We got to see some alternate reality versions of some characters. Like we got to meet the new 16 whatever the new universe.
1610.
No,
that was the old one, right?
That was the old one, and now it's a different combination of those 4 numbers. I don't remember what it is. It's 6110, whatever the new one that Maker made in the first issue. We get to see their version of Magic and Colossus and a few other characters, and then the plot is going interesting places. It's weird because it's so clear this mini isn't going to give us what the new Ultimate Universe is. This is giving us the situation where the Maker gets backed into a corner and somehow the new universe gets made. But it is an interesting use of, they put all the characters from the original Ultimate Universe on all the covers, right? Like that's their sales pitch for the series, was all the characters you know and love coming back. But like they show up and are disposed of in this issue. I feel like it was a real bait and switch. I am surprised more people aren't like upset over, but I'm enjoying it. For 2 issues in, we're halfway through it. If it's an excuse to get us a whole new Ultimate line, and that's where they stick the X-Men, I will be all for it.
That's cool. Next week,
we have Astonishing Iceman number 1, where we see how he recovers from that brutal death. We have X-Men 25, which needs more Duggan. And he has said that there is a scene in that issue that plays out in all 3 of his monthly books, which I'm really curious how that's going to work. So in this, in Uncanny, and in Iron Man. And then Magneto 1. So we will find out if it can top Storm as your least hated throwback miniseries, Keegan.
Probably.
Meg! Now that you're almost at 1:30, and I'm sure you're just desperate to go hang out with your partner, thank you for being here. Where can people follow you?
So I got banned from Twitter for reasons, very justified reasons.
Whoa, back up. Excuse me. You got banned from X!
Did you guys plan that? That was like choreographed. It was beautiful.
I have been obnoxiously doing that the last few episodes. Every time X comes up, X!
It was so synchronized, though. That was wonderful. I got banned from X for arguing with a bigot.
What
so
are you
can
gonna
now
do?
find me at Psycon, PSIC0N, because it was taken with an L.
Help get all the followers back. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I just unprivated, so I'm at 24. So if you guys missed me, I know I was super entertaining, but I have a new project that I can finally talk about.
Okay.
So me and my dear buddy Joe Vex, we've been planning this for a little while, but we are launching a podcast. Don't
Keegan,
worry,
I called it.
It's
I
not
called
a
it, Keegan.
copycat. We've got it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun little experience.
So tell us about Okara Public Radio.
It's Krakoa Tonight, and it's our Tonight show, talking about the happenings of mutants.
That's cool.
That sounds really fun.
I'm pretty excited for it. We've been talking about this for months and months, so it's nice that we're getting the opportunity to do this together.
That is really cool. When and where can we check it out?
Well, it'll be recording tomorrow, first episode.
Nice.
So hopefully it'll be out within the next few days, because I know he's itching to get it out, and so am I.
Okay, well that'll be it'll be yesterday by the time you guys see this. So theoretically, maybe it'll be out the same week as this episode. Hopefully
it might. Get soon. So everybody should listen to both these shows. Because they're phenomenal and they serve different purposes. And
yes, absolutely.
This one is great for everybody keeping up with the books. I really like listening to this while at work when the episodes come out. You guys are doing a great job with this, and I know you guys both lead very busy adult lives. But whenever the new episodes come out, they're a great listen.
So,
man, you're gonna make me blush.
So with the Tonight name, are you guys going to be doing daily episodes? Is this a daily program?
No. No. It'll be most likely weekly, possibly more, since I'll be going to school in September, continuing my degree. Well, getting a new degree now because I've gotten my associates. But yeah, so you can find me on Twitter and then hear my thoughts on mutant affairs on Krakoa Tonight.
Will it be a project on like YouTube, or is it going to be like on the podcatchers?
I think we're doing Spotify because there will be no video, so it's going to be a completely audio show.
Audio, cool.
Yes,
that sounds awesome. I can't wait to check it out.
I totally appreciate your support, both of you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I had a wonderful time talking with you guys.
We love having you on.
Any late-breaking gossip news, anything you wanted to cover?
Not that I know of.
Then we'll see you guys next time. I'm that Nerdy Papa Bear on all of the socials, except for X, where I am just Nerdy Papa Bear. Keegan is Bulk Ranger. And until next time, remember to practice your red triangle, people. Resist.